Confidentiality is one of the first concerns most interviewees have when participating in a workplace investigation. They often want to know who will see their statements, whether their identity will be revealed, and whether anyone else will find out what they said. For this reason, the confidentiality caution is an essential part of the standard opening. It allows investigators to set realistic expectations about how information will be handled, while reinforcing the organization's commitment to protecting the integrity of the investigation. One of the most important principles investigators should communicate is that they cannot promise absolute confidentiality or anonymity. Although information will be handled as discreetly as possible, investigators must explain that it will be shared on a need-to-know basis. This means that only individuals who require the information to perform their roles, such as human resources, senior management, legal counsel, or decision-makers, will have access to it. In some situations, aspects of an interviewee's statement may also need to be disclosed to the respondent or other witnesses, so they have a fair opportunity to understand and respond to the allegations. Being transparent about these limitations helps build trust and avoids creating unrealistic expectations. Investigators should also explain that confidentiality has legal and procedural limits. If the investigation later becomes the subject of litigation, arbitration, or a regulatory proceeding, interview notes, witness statements, recordings, and other investigative records may be subject to legal disclosure. Similarly, collective agreements, employment legislation, or access to information laws may require certain information to be shared with authorized representatives or regulatory bodies. Explaining these possibilities at the outset demonstrates honesty and helps protect the credibility of the investigative process. Another important point to clarify is that there are no off-the-record conversations during the interview. Everything discussed during the meeting forms part of the investigation and may be documented in notes or captured through an approved recording process. Interviewees should understand that investigators cannot selectively ignore or exclude information simply because someone asks to speak off the record. Maintaining a complete and accurate record is essential to ensuring that investigative findings are based on all relevant evidence rather than selective documentation. To protect the integrity of the investigation, investigators should also ask interviewees not to discuss the interview or the matters under investigation with coworkers while the investigation is ongoing. The purpose of this request is not to silence employees unnecessarily, but to reduce the risk of witnesses influencing one another's recollections, spreading workplace rumors, or compromising evidence. At the same time, investigators should recognize that confidentiality instructions must be reasonable and consistent with applicable employment and labor laws. Broad or blanket gag orders may not be legally enforceable in some jurisdictions, particularly where employees have protected rights to discuss workplace conditions. Any request for confidentiality should therefore be based on legitimate investigative needs, such as protecting evidence, preventing witness intimidation, or preserving the fairness of the investigation. Finally, investigators should pay attention to how interviewees respond to the confidentiality discussion. If someone expresses significant concern about others finding out they participated, the investigator should explore those concerns further. Fear of retaliation, intimidation, or workplace conflict may indicate additional issues that require investigation or protective measures. Investigators should reassure participants that the organization prohibits retaliation against individuals who participate in good faith. At the same time, they should explain that while every person's information is considered during the investigation, the final investigative findings and any disciplinary decisions affecting other employees are confidential employment matters and generally cannot be shared with participants. By providing a clear and balanced confidentiality caution at the beginning of the interview, investigators promote transparency, manage expectations, and strengthen confidence in the fairness of the investigative process. Participants are more likely to cooperate when they understand both how their information will be protected and the legal limitations that govern the handling of investigative records.